Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Welcome back to my channel. Do you feel serene? Today I have a casual sit down, talking at you video. I had someone comment on one of my videos once that the particular video I made was like very reminiscent of old YouTube, and honestly that's the kind of vibes I give. I sit in my messy bedroom and I talk at you, and honestly that's how I like it, so I'm continuing with that. For today though, I just wanted to talk about some of my experiences cosplaying in public, both with like personal stories but also to share tips. I have people ask me on occasion, like, what's it like cosplaying in public? What should I be aware of? In case anyone is curious about doing more cosplay photo shoots or cosplay vlogs, just wearing their cosplays out in public. I have done it many times, so I thought I'd share with you some of the things I've learned, because there's not like, I don't want to act like there's a bunch of dangers per se, but there are definitely things to be aware of, and I want to make sure you have the best experience possible. I started cosplaying in 2021, which is not that long compared to a lot of other people who have been cosplaying, but I've done probably about 70% of my cosplay photos, which you can find on my Instagram at wow__mel. I've done them in public. Most of them involve me passing people, but a lot of them also involve actual interactions with people. I've cosplayed in town squares, in front of shops, I've worn them inside of shops, at restaurants, at forest preserves, at parks. I've been inside a grocery store or two in cosplay, also like your local Walgreens. We don't go to those sorts of indoor places to like take photos necessarily, but I have been in cosplay there. If you are planning on cosplaying in public, these are the general sorts of reactions you can expect to get. Again, all these interactions from this video and all my tips are pulled from my own experiences, so you know, yours may vary. People's just most general, most common reaction is they'll throw a fleeting glance at you, mind their own business. This is nice. There's no faces, there's no comments, there's no double takes, just people minding their own business, which is nice because then I can keep doing what I'm doing and they can keep doing what they're doing and no one will be bothering each other. However, even though that is like the vast majority of reactions I get, there are definitely some other ones that are also fairly common. One is people paying attention to you, but they are nice about it. I also wrote down, I don't have like a script, but I have bullet points. I wrote down curious and delighted. This is usually children. I know once I was wearing my Mellaroo cosplay, I think, because she has wings, and a child was like talking to her mom that there was a fairy there, which was super cute. I also had a grandparent like come up to me once and they said that their grandchild cosplays, so they thought it was cool seeing me out in public cosplaying. Bianca and I tend to go to a specific town square, and the local store clerks have slowly started to recognize us. Even though I look completely different every time I'm there, we basically always go to a couple shops every time we take photos there, so we're going to them a lot and they're starting to know who we are and they'll often compliment me. I also remember going there in my Barbie cosplay once, the cowgirl Barbie outfit, so it was very bold and bright. A lot of people commented on it. Funnily enough, a lot of them didn't think I was cosplaying necessarily, they just thought that was my sense of style, but they'd compliment me on it or like ask like, was I going somewhere, or is that just my outfit? But it was always in like a positive manner, which is nice. So if you have like a favorite spot you'll go to, other people who tend to be there might start to recognize you even though you look different. Sometimes you just make people's day walking by, like you can just tell, like their faces light up or they'll be super curious. I know if I went somewhere and I saw a cosplayer walking around, especially as a character I knew, I would be delighted. And that does happen. Occasionally they'll recognize my cosplay. I know when I was Zelda, I was approached by these people who complimented my cosplay. They were like, "Oh, I love your Zelda cosplay," and I was like, yes. As you might expect, making people happy from my cosplays while I'm wearing in public is my favorite reaction, but completely ignoring me is the one I'll take under that. Then we have the people who pay attention to you and they're cautious / judgmental. these tend to be older people. You know, sometimes parents that might be worried about the type of person you are, especially when we're walking around with the camera, you know, either thinking I'm just weird or some type of influencer who's gonna get up in their business, and also older people who don't understand why I look so weird. To be fair, I usually do look weird, and calling myself this sounds like a pat on the back, but I usually am walking around to make content for YouTube or Instagram. So me being an influencer on the loose, ready to film or photograph things for my use, it's technically correct. I film and photograph myself in that general area, and so they'll hurry away. I'll also have older people who, like, when they're walking by will be like, it's not Halloween anymore, or like, what are you all dressed up for, you know, but in like more of a neutral, leaning on negative way. I don't know why so many older folks are intent on pointing out that it's not Halloween when I'm in cosplay, as if I don't know that. I guess it's a joke, but how am I supposed to react to that? I genuinely don't get it, but a lot of people do say that to me. It has definitely happened more than once. Otherwise, they'll just give slightly weird, disapproving stares and hurry away, cross the street, whatever. And so we have the other category of people who are paying attention to you, but they're creepy or straight up disrespectful. And I talk about this in some of my cosplay story times, which you can check out because I go into more detail about some of these like loose examples I'm giving. But I had this experience where I was in my Zelda cosplay, and there were these two men that they weren't following me closely enough that I can say with confidence that they were following me. But what I can say is that Bianca and I bumped into them in the same like town square. It's got like a square of shops around it, and then there's a park in the middle. It's fairly big. We bumped into them many times, and it seemed like every time we moved to a new location to take photos, they also moved. So people potentially following me around, that did happen. I'll talk about this more a little later on when I talk about safety tips, but I have had one person, to my knowledge, film me for, I think, Snapchat, and I'm sure other people have probably snapped photos or filmed me when I'm just not aware of it. I've also had people, like, shout at me from across the street, which I find really unnecessary. I mean, of course, I've had people, like, approach me more aggressively, like those Zelda people. They did come up to talk to me and be like, what are you dressed up as? But it was like weird. It was a weird vibe. But when I was wearing my Barbie cosplay, Bianca was taking photos of me. I was sitting on like this brick ledge situation. While we were getting photos done, some dude was literally across the street shouting like, are you wearing a wig? Or is that your real hair? What are you up to? And I just completely ignored him because I'm not going to respond to a stranger who's literally shouting at me from across the street about something that's none of his business. Why would you do that to someone? Which is really uncomfortable. And then he walked by and like obviously knew I didn't respond to him, which is kind of scary in its own way because you never know how someone will react to you ignoring them. So yeah, nothing came of that per se, but there definitely are off-putting, scary moments. So those are the 4 types of main reactions: ignoring you, paying attention but they're happy, paying attention but they're neutral, / judgmental and paying attention and they're actually like aggressive or weird. You probably could have assumed those are the general reactions, but I bring those up because they're all something you should be prepared for, because I've experienced all of them multiple times. Probably 1 out of 5 photo shoots I've had a negative experience with someone. While it's not the majority of the time and it's not common It's not uncommon. I have multiple stories. And that will lead me to my next point because it's safety tips. A lot of these are pretty general and or obvious, but especially since I just told you I have been approached and treated strangely multiple times, please pay attention and actually take these words to heart because it's how I have been in strange situations, uncomfortable ones, but I thankfully have not ever been like touched without consent. I've never been in an actual dangerous situation. So firstly, most importantly, bring someone with you. You will never catch me taking photos by myself in public, aside from the fact that I only have extremely basic photography skills. But even if I was a photography master, I'm not going out into public taking photos by myself. Why? Because people can and do approach me. And I think a lot of the reason nothing escalated to a more dangerous, serious point is because I've never been alone. Bianca is always with me, and sometimes I also have other friends cosplaying with me, or like usually Amber, sometimes she'll come to photo shoots with us. So that's also what I'd suggest. Having one person with you is like the minimum, but if you can, have multiple people. That's kind of what Amber and I like to do, is we'll go out with Bianca and make like a day of it. I'll be like, I have a character I want photos of, so I'll ask Bianca to take photos of me, and then I'll be like, hey Amber, Bianca is gonna take photos of me, do you want to get in on this? And then we'll all go out together and we'll take photos and we'll go shopping and we'll eat food and we'll go home. We'll make it an event. Obviously though, if you're doing that, check with your photographer. Bianca's my best friend. She also obviously knows my family, so me being like, hey, can Amber come, usually isn't a big deal. But especially if you're like not as close with your photographer, even if you are, you should check with them. Amber doesn't ever just appear. I always at least ask in advance if she can come. But don't just bring random extra people to your photo shoots with the expectation of them getting photos. I want to make that clear. But yeah, if you can, bring more people. It's true that it will probably bring more attention to you if you're in a bigger group of people in bright wigs and outfits, but the more people there are, the less danger there is, at least generally speaking. Also, of course, keep your location on, make sure someone, preferably multiple people, know where you're at and around what time they should expect you back. I know this might sound overboard, but it's really important. I actually usually keep pepper spray on me, and if you're ever feeling in danger, just trust your gut and leave. The cosplay photos are not worth your safety. I talk about this more in one of my cosplay story times, but this story kind of sticks with me now in retrospect, so I tell it multiple times. But when I had my Panther photo shoot, that was the experience where someone filmed me, and just putting everything on the table, to their credit, they did ask. I'm pretty sure it was on Snapchat. I think they said, can I film you for Snapchat or something like that while I was walking by. And me, I was feeling super confident. This was my first ever in public photo shoot, and I felt like I looked super pretty, and my confidence, yeah, was just super up high. So I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But Bianca was with me and she was like, no, and she helped cover me and walk away with me. And he kept filming us while she was like covering me and walking away with me. And again, I struggle with this looking back because I'm like, well, I said yes, Bianca said no, although he really shouldn't have, because obviously she would have still been in the video. And looking back, that guy definitely did give bad vibes, and I kind of knew it then, but I just felt so confident and powerful in the moment that I was like, well, he can film me and put me on Snapchat, which will disappear anyway. Like, I don't really care that much, right? I don't care that a 5-second video of me walking by him is on his Snapchat, but it's better not to tempt stuff like that, you know? Because I don't know where that video could have ended up. And even though I was like, yeah, you can film me as we were walking away, I'm like, okay, then he could zoom in on my butt because I'm in my Panther outfit, which is like a skin tight red latexy outfit. And so what, he could just have a video of me as I'm walking away, and I was just like, yeah, I didn't think too hard about it. Nothing became of it per se, but I'm just a little more careful now. I try not to let my Feelings of confidence in the moment cloud my judgment. You just don't know how things will be twisted and warped. This was like an adult man filming me in a red latex outfit as I walked away. Like, what good could have come from that? I'm glad Bianca was there with me, and I don't want anyone to take this as like, why is she making choices for you? No, literally, that, I mean, aside from taking photos for me, and I love hanging out with Bianca, she also helps look out for me, because I can be naive, I can be trusting, and there are moments where my confidence and feeling great, because when I'm in a cosplay, I don't feel like myself, I feel cooler than myself, and so she's there to kind of help protect me and keep me grounded and keep my judgment clear, because I could wind up in bad situations if she wasn't there. And so it's good to have someone like that who not only will physically be there, but also help look out for you, especially if you're like me and you get like a surge of confidence. And we don't even take photos there anymore. Even though the area is nice for taking photos, it's also crowded and the vibes there are just off. It's not worth it. So I have 2 more sections left of this video. The next is like cosplay locations, suggestions, tips, types of things. This isn't super deep, but just the sorts of places I go if you like want to take photos in public but you're not sure where. For foresty vibes, we go to local parks and local forest preserves. Definitely just typing in local forest preserves in Google will mob up a couple places to go. They're usually free to go to. Yeah, at least the ones by my place, not too many people. A couple people might walk by, but I haven't had too many interactions at those types of places. They definitely tend to mind their own business the most at forest preserves, I would say. The only interaction I've had there was I've been complimented. Town squares are my favorite spots because they tend to have a park-ish vibe going on in the middle. If you want more foresty pictures, if you want more picnicky area pictures, like a little bit of nature light TM, but they also have shops for if you want more of a town vibe. I tend to go on weekdays when I can because that sort of place does tend to be the busiest. The town squares are definitely where I have the most interactions with people in general. Also, a lot of the negative ones happen there because it's just like a public space with stores and restaurants and stuff. So you run into all types of people there. You are normally fine to film or take photos in public spaces. Just be cognizant of the people around you. Things get a little more dicey when you go into like actual stores and stuff. I definitely have looked up before for like a vlog, like can I film in like a Walmart or something, and I think the answer was like generally yeah, but they could also tell you to stop and leave because it's like a public space but it's still owned by someone, unlike at a local park where as long as you're within the hours, like you're basically free to do whatever legal stuff you want there. If you're curious, just doing a quick Google beforehand. If you really have your heart set on a specific spot but you're not sure about it, you can also try and contact the owners of the place. When I did the sunflower field walkthrough on my YouTube channel a long time ago, it's like a local farm. It's open to the public and they have the sunflower field you can walk through and they have corn mazes and stuff, but I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to vlog here. It's like open to the public but it's not public. And so what I did was I just emailed the owner. It definitely helped because it was more of a local place and they got back to me and said, yeah, it's fine, just make sure you like tag that this is where you are at because it's like free publicity for them. So you can also check, but really, especially if you're outdoors and not like in someone's lawn, you will usually be okay. And if you do get caught or get in trouble, they usually will just tell you, hey, can you please leave, or hey, don't film here. So use your discretion, but most public places, especially outdoors, will be a go. And here is my last miscellaneous warnings tips section now that I've gone through people and locations. Even though, as I just said, you can generally take photos in public, be mindful of the people around you. Just as you have a right to be there and take your photos, the people around you have a right to be there and not be bothered. A lot of the times, people can be edited out, but be aware and try and be respectful, especially if they're like giving the vibes that they don't want to be caught in the background of your photo. Again, if you're in a public space, I don't think you'll get in much legal trouble, but just trying to avoid having random people in your photos whenever you can is the best course of action, especially because you usually don't want them in your photos anyway. Try not to be entitled, try not to be obnoxious, try not to spend too much time in the way. Bianca and I taking photos in public usually takes like 15 minutes max. We walk around, we snap photos, and we leave because the cameras and just our presence where we are taking a photo, we are trying not to have people. And people might want to be where we are, so we are cognizant of this no matter how big the park we're in is, and try to keep up the pace. Be especially aware if you are in an area where children can get into your photos. While it might be fine to have a random adult walking in the background with their groceries, you definitely want to be more careful when you have kids in your photos for their safety. Also because if their parents notice that their children are getting in the background of your photos, they might come and approach you and like ask what you're up to. You just want to save yourself the trouble, keep the kids out of it. We go to parks a lot, so be aware that kids might be running around. That is a whole headache you don't want to get into. Also, be aware of what's in the background. I know that might sound obvious because, yeah, you're picking a public place for the purposes of the background, but we went once around the 4th of July, and I wasn't really paying attention to it because it was the same town square we always go to. But there were a bunch of like American flags just hanging off the buildings in the background. And yeah, things like that can be edited out, but also if you can prevent having to do future work, definitely do that. For us, it wasn't like a big deal. It didn't really mess with the vibe of the shoot, but something like that definitely might mess with the vibe of other shoots, especially if it was that scenario and you're trying to cosplay a character that is not living in America. If you care about that sort of pickiness, you know, that could be a thing. Or like if you're taking photos in front of stores, maybe just take a glance at what actual stores and shops you're in front of, just in case it's not something you want to inadvertently promote, just in case it's something that might be a little bit strange. There are all kinds of shops out there and some might ruin the vibes. Pulling from like personal experience, the town square we go to, there's an anime store. For some people, cosplaying an anime character in front of an anime store might be like chef's kiss. For some people, it might be a little too meta. It might be a little too on the nose. You might be face palming. If you see a bunch of Demon Slayer characters in like the window of the storefront you're in front of and you're cosplaying someone from Fruits Basket. You know, we have a metaphysical / like crystal store there. And there are some like statues of deities. I know they sell Norse god statues there. And you know, having Norse gods in the background might not suit the vibe of your photos. These sorts of nitpicky things can be tiny, and a lot of times the finer details of the stores, especially if you're doing it on like a street view and they're just sort of on the side, they probably won't be a huge deal. A lot of times like point blank photos right in front of a store isn't usually the vibe you're going for anyway, but these little things can add up and they can be a headache to edit out. So just things to think of. Finally, be aware of how you look. I mean, obviously, you might look a little strange compared to a normal person, but that's not what I mean. Some outfits might be a little risque, or perhaps you have fake weapons with you. For example, my Dove cosplay has really high slits on the sides showing my thighs, and I wear a black garter around one of my thighs, and in that black garter, I keep a fake dagger. Actually, it's kind of like a real dagger, just incredibly dull. One of the locations we went to take photos, a child was having a birthday party. Now this was kind of like a park town clubhouse situation. There were like docks and there was a little pond and there were like some fields. We could take photos without them being in it and having to crop it out. But I was like, okay, I am in a sexier outfit. These are a bunch of kids. having a birthday party. Also, I have a fake weapon with me. I don't want to scare them. I don't want to alarm the parents and have the cops called on me because I'm walking by their children with a dagger. So we went, nah, let's just leave. And we went to a different area, actually another town square, funnily enough, and they were having like a farmer's market going on. It was mostly adults, but I went, huh, there are a lot of people here, and I have a prop dagger with me. This could alarm and frighten some people. So we went, nah, the photos aren't worth it. And then we left, and we retook the photos some other day. Yeah, the dagger is extremely dull. It really can't hurt anyone unless you're actually like trying really hard to attack someone with it. But these people don't know that. It looks real from a distance. It actually looks real up close. It's just not worth it. There are things you gotta do for your own safety and your own comfort, and there's things you gotta do for other people's safety and other people's comfort. A lot of them probably have never seen a cosplayer in real life before, so try and give them some grace even if they treat you a bit strangely. At the end of the day, a lot of it just comes down to situational awareness, awareness of yourself, how you look, awareness of the people around you, where they are, what kind of vibe they're giving off, awareness of the buildings, the animals, the children, the signs. That's how you'll be able to get the best photos that fit the mood with stuff you don't have to edit out, and that's also how you and other people stay safe. But when push comes to shove, because I did a lot of talking about things that could go wrong or weird experiences I've had, most people won't notice, straight up. A lot of people won't notice even if you're in a brightly colored wig and fairy wings. And a lot of people won't care, won't interact. They got things to do, they got bills to pay, they don't care what you're doing. So go out there and have fun. I'm sure your photos will turn out great. Before I wrap this up, I wanted to ask, has anyone watching this video already cosplayed in public? If you do, you can let me know how the experience was in the comments below, or if you have any like specific questions about it that I didn't necessarily answer in this video, you can also ask that below. My Instagram is wow__mel, where you can see the many photos that Bianca and I have taken out in public. I also stream on Twitch at wow__mel. But for now, I will wrap it up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!